again. How was your meditation?
I didn't get to meditate as much this week as before, last week.
Uh-huh.
A lot of distractions and I was kind of busy, but I did manage to meditate maybe three times
Okay.
or so.
Okay.
And I had good sessions, good meditation. I was practicing the metta meditation that we were talking
Oh,
about
very good.
last time. And that's something that's really, I think it's really beneficial to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've really been able to get away from beating myself up the way I used to love to do.
Yay. Yes.
And
Very good.
a friend of ours had a pacemaker implanted last Tuesday, day before yesterday, and so I was sending a lot of good meditations in his direction. I thought he was in the hospital, and then I find out that they actually do that on an outpatient basis now.
Whoa,
Wow.
Oh, who
Okay.
knew,
that's crazy.
heart surgery on as an outpatient.
Uh-huh.
But apparently he's doing fine.
And, it's good that you can try these different things. That's one of the reasons why I come and make different offerings, because, one will touch you at one time, perhaps one at another time. And, since the meditation is something that Buddhists have been practicing for 2,000 years, so I think it may last. And as I say, the secret trick with this loving kindness meditation is to go out in public where nobody notices you and see somebody just walking by and just give them love and peace and well-being. So,
I'm going to try that.
Okay, good. And I think that's easier. I went to a personal growth development kind of seminar, and they sent us out on an exercise, and we went to a mall and we had an hour and we were supposed to hug 10 strangers. And I think the meta where they don't see you giving them the love and kindness is easier, coming up to a stranger and saying, "Let me hug you."
Especially these days when everybody's so afraid of everything.
Oh yeah, that was absolutely part of it. You get a variety of reactions, I'll say. But after this, that was one where after most people got over their initial resistance, they liked it. It's funny.
Oh, everybody likes hugs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I've never, I don't know, maybe that's too broad a statement, but I don't know anybody.
Some people don't like being touched, I guess.
Right, so that's the fear, I guess. So how about you, Richard?
Well, we have a project going on in the house, and it involves getting things from Home Depot, and they have messed so much up that the practice is like daily, just staying centered and wishing them well among the many mess ups they're making, and dealing with some people that don't come through like they tell you they're going to go through, and so it's just being in the meditation every moment.
That's important. I know at the end of my career, I spent a while where I was managing a bunch of software projects that were being done in India. And I found at that time being an unattached project manager was not what my company wanted me to be.
Hmm.
So they didn't want me to sit there as the deadlines were going by, looking at my computer saying, anyway. But here, what you're doing there, to be able to see it and to just be able to relax and let go is great. Some people say we don't do anything, so it's even more appropriate to let go of what you're not doing anyway.
That's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
uh-huh. How about you, Carol?
It's been good this week. I think we've meditated every day this week.
Uh-huh.
And it's easier with our friend Evelyn sitting with us,
Uh-huh.
spurs me on. So it was good.
That's right. So we have our afternoon meditation team at our house. And that's good. Okay, then let us start doing all of the hard work that we do when we are doing nothing. Doing nothing is the hardest of all. So here, let me see where in the world I am in my slideshow. Okay. Mindfulness is present moment awareness, paying attention on purpose, in the present moment, non-judgmentally, fully receive whatever is experienced, then let it go. All right. Now, today, I want to talk about quieting the mind. The focus and practice pretty quickly gets to how do I quiet my mind? When you start meditating, you start to find out just how noisy your mind can be. Many times that's the motivation for meditating, to quiet the mind. So the question becomes, how can I quiet the mind? One way is by questioning the mind. If the mind is distracted, to ask the question promptly, to whom do these distracting thoughts occur? Don't just follow the thought, look at the question. This directs our attention within ourselves instead of out to the busy world. Ramana Maharshi, who is the teacher of my teacher, when asked this kind of question, immediately points back from the question to the questioner. He tells you to look within yourself, instead of out into the world where the mind externalizes, rather than continuing with the thought, to look to where these thoughts rise up from. These are thoughts about you, in relation to you. Where do they come from? They rise and pass like clouds. Who knows the clouds? Who are you when there are no clouds? Ramana calls keeping your attention within yourself like this, keeping it, quote, in the heart. The heart to which Ramana refers is not a body part. Rather, you could say it is the fount of consciousness and being within you. It is spoken of as if it were a place, but it is locationless. Now, when Ramana was asked, how long can the mind stay or be kept into the heart? He said, the period extends by practice. At the end of practice, the mind returns to the present normal state. Unity in the heart is replaced by variety of phenomena perceived. This is called the outgoing mind. The heart-going mind is called the resting mind. This is a role for our practice. Ramana says the period extends by practice. Practice is for the mind. Through practice, the mind gains the strength that it needs just to be still. It seems kind of funny that the mind has to develop strength just to be still, but that is the way it is. So meditate. And with this, now you're doing the first stage of practice, stilling the mind. When your mind becomes still, then the second stage of practice begins. I call this diving within. You dive into what Ramana calls the resting mind. It's resting because it's at home within itself. Ramana was asked, is this process merely intellectual or feeling? Ramana told them, feeling. He says, more akin to feeling than thinking. Ramana tells you to look deeper than the intellectual mind into your own intuitive knowing, the knowing within yourself that is always there. This is important. You'll never be able to dive in by thinking about it. Maybe the thought starts the dive, but the dive is beyond thought. Intuition is the best word I know for it, but really it is inadequate. It's not anything that can be named with words. But you know it even without a name. But it is beyond the mind, beyond cognitive thought. Ramana was asked, how do all the thoughts cease when the mind is in the heart? And he replied, by force of will, with strong faith in the truth of the teaching. So self-control and faith are important elements. And then Ramana tells us how to quiet the mind with conquest of the will to develop concentration and conquest of passions, developing detachment and dispassion, and the practice of selfless service and virtue to develop a sense of equality to everyone. All of these quiet the mind. The first does it by mental concentration and control. These are developed by the mental disciplines of Raja Yoga and Buddhist practices like the mindfulness we practice. Mental concentration and control are what we're developing with our mindfulness practice. The next is by cultivation of dispassion. This is a reduction in the focus of your mind and on your body as ways to find happiness. This dispassion starts to diminish your sense of I. The third way is by acting with equality towards everyone. This is the attitude of selfless service and harmlessness. This is a diminishment of the sense of mine. So we have self-control, acting to diminish the sense of I, and acting to diminish the sense of mine. These will all quiet your mind. Now, these prepare your mind so it'll be less restless and easier to get quiet. Thinking about practice and preparing for practice, though, even with the best intention, is not the actual practice. The actual meditation and self-investigation must be done. The only person that can look within you is you. The only person that can dispel the ideas that you've accumulated about yourself and find out what is true within yourself is you. You find out in practice, not in thinking about practice or various forms of mental exercise. You have to plunge into your own being, your own existence, and always present awareness, aware whether there is an object of consciousness or no object, just consciousness. Plunge into that. Now, all of this shows the problem with the mind and meditation. Most of us try to find a way to deal with all of this with their mind. We want to make our always aware consciousness and existence into some kind of a mental object so we can think about it. And the problem is that this consciousness is you, and you are never an object. You know this consciousness, but not as an object. You know it as yourself. And the more you know it as yourself, then the quieter your mind becomes. Now, we have a video from a man named Seb Jones, and the video is You Are Not Your Mind.
If you can be aware of your mind, if you can be aware of ego, you're in. What I mean by ego is your sense of self, the sense of me. It is the constant stream of thoughts and internal dialogue that pervade your experience. Notice this, really pay attention to your thoughts. And the more you do, the more you realize that they happen all the time. Yet you, as awareness, are right here. You're always right here. Thoughts will come and go, but you're here. Emotions will come and go, but again, you're here. What's that about? So what this means is it means you've never been your thoughts, and you never will be. Rather, you are precisely the empty awareness which notices them. But this goes under the radar because our thoughts feel so real. They feel so real that often we fail to distinguish between our thoughts and perceptions of an event and the event itself. So what's happening here is our ego is projecting onto the event, which, by the way, is perfect. The event is the event. But our minds distort the event such that now it's really bad or it's amazing. Do you see how this is being filtered through the mind? And now it is this different thing? You can use your awareness to notice this whole process, right? You can be very aware of this whole thing. If you just pay attention to your mind, these thoughts that you once identified with immediately, but now you see, it's a thought. In this space of awareness, just this paying attention, this space, which is always available, by the way. Here, you are not identified with your thoughts. Rather, you notice your thoughts for what they are. And the deeper you go with this work, you can realize that everything is just transient phenomena happening within consciousness. In simpler terms, things come and go, but you are always here. You as awareness are always here. How can you be your mind? How can you be your ego if we've established quite clearly that this awareness is so much more fundamental to your experience? And can you see that as you raise your level of awareness, as you raise your consciousness, the more at peace you are, because the less and less identified you are with these crappy thoughts, or even the good ones. All thoughts are recognized to be thoughts. The higher your consciousness, the less problems you have. The greater and stronger your awareness is, the more at ease you'll be. The more you can recognize your mind for what it is. Everybody suffers from constant mind chatter, right? And all this is noticing that and dropping it. But you've got to notice it quite objectively. You've got to be impartial with your evaluation of your mind. You've got to be very, very conscious, very aware. You've got to be able to discern when a thought arises, when an emotion happens, what it feels like, and to know that that is just temporary. It is a temporary part of your experience. But you, as awareness, are always here. You are that which is always here, that knows your experience. When you're skeptical of this, be very careful, because when you think things like, I am my mind and I am my body, you're coming to a conclusion using logic with no real deep introspection. You're not actually looking. You're assuming. You're assuming that your perception of reality is accurate. And you don't know that for sure. Not for sure.
All right. And now for some more meditation. Just settle in, feel your breath, and notice who within you knows this flow of breath. Notice the witness that just knows without being involved. And now, as you meditate, just notice the awareness that is always there. It's there right now. Now feel the peace within yourself. All right. Now we'll close with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Peace,
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 peace, peace.
peace. All right. Any questions or comments?
Richard, another wonderful satsang, and the reading and that little video, which really, for me, went to the point of investigating your mind when you feel terrible feelings or even wonderful feelings, to look into the mind and seeing what statements are coming
Mhm.
that are making those feelings arise. and then going into the awareness and even deeper into what is that ineffable thing that is aware of the awareness.
Yes.
Just once again, so wonderful. I'm so glad that you bring us together and present these things. Much, much appreciated.
Very good. You look like you were going to say something, Doug.
Well, I certainly agree with everything Richard just said. About these sessions. They are pretty wonderful. When you were talking earlier about actually doing the meditation, I was thinking about when I used to be an active follower of Jiddu Krishnamurti. And I read all his books and attended as many of his lectures as I could. But I never actually meditated. I was, I was reading about it and hearing about it, and I thought, this is really great, and I was really very enthusiastic about it. But I never actually did it.
And, the point is the practice is to somehow get it past your mind. Your mind is a wonderful tool, but it can only understand so much. And the mind wants to make everything into objects so that it can deal with them. And the thing is, everything isn't an object. You're not an object, but it wants to make you an object.
Yes, it always wants to put a name to everything.
Right, absolutely. In a name and form. And none of the names and forms are relevant. I remember listening to the famous physicist, Richard Feynman, and he was saying, speaking of his father, and his father pointed to some bird in the lake and told him the name of the bird in 10 different languages. And then he told him, with all of that, you don't know anything about the bird.
Yep. I think more than anything, the mind creates a separation.
Yes. Yes. Well, one of the things I've learned more and more is the mind, to put it at one level, just kind of makes up its own stories and then projects that on the world. And we believe that story is the way it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oops. Anyway, thank you guys all for coming together today, and we'll see you next week. Namaste.
Wonderful.
Namaste.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Richard. Bye-bye.